ride for this. Where my Zach get high to this. Where y'all at? Number one podcast. 6:30. I'm gonna start. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is the What's Next podcast, Houston's number one platform where I invite creatives to share their journeys and give us a depiction of their visions. Most importantly, the last question I'll ask is, what's next? Yes. Yes. Okay. Hey, listen, I hope you didn't think that I wasn't going to drop an episode the last Saturday in Black History Month. Lot to get into. I bought my first pair of Jordan 1s. Walk with me.
Yo, it feel like 95.
Yeah.
Sachi on my body.
Okay.
Biggie, Jigga, Puffy, all that ball.
Houston, Texas. Houston, Texas. Mi ciudad, mi casa. Soy yo. Yo soy. My name is John Ross Dike I. And you can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at John Ross Dike and still_visionary. Also, the What's Next pod _ on IG. If you would, connect with me on LinkedIn, subscribe to my YouTube channel, like my fan page on Facebook, and visit my website at stillvisionary.com. Directly in front of you, I have all the paraphernalia I sell, right? This right here. I'll get into this shirt right here. It's a dry fit shirt. You can cash at me, John Ross Dike on Cash App. But please shop at stillvisionary.com/merch. Welcome to the 107th edition of the What's Next podcast, a production of Still Visionary Inc. I got some stuff to get into right quick. And, I bought my first pair of Jordan 1s Friday. Friday for the state playoff game that we had Saturday. Today's Sunday, the 21st. And this episode is dropping Saturday, the 27th, the last Saturday of Black History Month. So I did not want to not drop an episode and then see you in March. But before you finish this episode or press the stop button, press the pause button, right? And then go back and watch episode 106 with my homegirl, Crystal LaShawn Beasley. Very interesting episode about the environment and this chaotic weather that we've been through in the last month or so. Okay, listen to 105, my man Trey Rogers. Listen to 104, my man Anthony Odunsi, and get his book, The Wake Up Call. 103, Zenergize Your Life with my homie Zenon Shea. 102, it's slipping my mind right now. 101 was Texture. 102 was The Craft. 101 was Texture with a student of mine, Andrew Mendez. And 100 was with my dog, Will Steen of Exclusive Eats. But listen, it being Black History Month, I want to give the last Saturday and the last Saturday of February to a gentleman. I looked him up, the first African-American realtor, right? Philip A. Payton Jr. I salute you, sir. Rest in peace to you. They call him the father of Harlem, the godfather of Harlem, the father of Harlem for the real estate that he provided African-Americans at the time that were coming up from the South. Right. So I typed in Google first African-American realtor, and that's what popped up. I say realtor, ladies and gentlemen. I say realtor because I finally passed. Listen, this is not a music podcast. I do have a music segment on the podcast, but this moment was too big to pass. I passed the real estate exam.
I know we doing the most.
Let me grab a piece of paper right quick.
We don't mean any harm. Living the dream, we don't dream anymore. fucking motto. I know. Too big for my britches. How they go? It's a celebration, bitches. I feel excellent knowing I'm the excrement and play the game on extra hard.
No extra men.
It kept me extra thin without my next of kin. Getting by was like a day without the Mexican. Now I'm extra bent, more estrogen. Some extra shy, some S&M. I've been had hundreds, Benjamins. I've been had diamonds, I ain't mention them. See, honey's wetter than they ever been.
Yes, sir.
Better than it's ever been. See, I've done it all. I'm the underdog. I was the top dog, but as a younger dog, life's a bitch. Fuck a dog. I'm beating cases left and right. Lucky dog. I hope I get the message like me, bro.
I earned my ego. This is a toast. Listen. This is the original, the first version of Over Toast. Same artist, the Nice Guys. Shout out to my boys for letting me use their records on my podcast. We're going to get verse 2 out the way, and then we're going to get right back into the podcast. Y'all rock with me. I passed my exam, y'all. Let's go!
It's a celebration, bitches. Good times. Remember hood times? Those were good times, too, with my crook mind. Can't appreciate the good till you seen the bad.
These niggas wanting what they, not what they have. Remember that. Boys wanting what they want and not what they have.
And I appreciate the hugs, cause I felt the scrapes. So when my fam got his hand on my shoulder, bust open some more sham. I be damned if he's sober. And I be damned if you bolder. Do you know who I am?
God damn, but I'm older.
And more responsible.
Yes.
Yes. Now I got a conscience, dude. Won't bother you if you don't bother me. So pardon you, dude. Play a part and leave. I sent a drink to go with your humble pie. Nerve of this nigga trying to humble I. Why? Nigga, chill.
I hate to pause it right there, but Houston, Texas, yes. 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 It took me 9 tries. It took me 9 tries. And the reason why I skipped that week in February, right, and then just popped back up with episode 104 of my podcast was because I took the exam and I said to myself, I'm going to pass it and I'm going to come on here and I'm going to talk about it. This is right before the playoffs we had, right? This is in the midst of the season going on. We're nearing the end of the season, and I wanted to pass the test because I was tired of saying that what was next for me was passing this real estate exam. Needless to say, I failed it. So I didn't have the motivation. I even got on. I started a podcast, and then I ended up quitting it because it wasn't right. It didn't feel right. It felt forced, and I felt like this weight over my shoulders, right? So we had the playoff game Saturday. That is yesterday, right? Friday, I took the test. It was the 8th time I took it, and I thought the 8th time was going to be the time that I'd be over and I'd be finished with it. I got a 20. I needed to get a 21 to pass. I got a 20. So I said to myself, I'm not going to wait another 2 weeks. I'm ready. I'm focused. I talked to my man, Mike. I took a practice test. I passed that. It's just something wasn't clicking, right? So I had to do a little bit more research, do a little bit more studying, and I came back Sunday morning, this morning, and I passed it. And I wanted to come here today before the day ended in all my glory and all this appreciation, right? And talk about passing this exam and the experience that I had with passing this exam and this whole real estate process. So the word that defines me in this moment is, I had said it earlier to my wife. Shout out to my wife. Accomplished. Accomplished is the word that describes me in this moment, defines me in this moment. And I'll tell you why. I'm a college educated brother. Went to college. It took me a while to get out of it, right? It took us all a while to get out of it. A lot of boys went to college and they didn't do it in 4 years, 5, 6 years, some 7, some 8. But it took me a while to get out of college. I get out of college in 2009. And I'm thinking to myself, man, the degree I chose the degree I chose just to get out. I started off a mechie engineer, like my homegirl in episode 106, right? I started off a mechie engineer, but it wasn't for me. So I deaded it. Thought I was going to do pharmacy. I deaded that. So I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I picked psychology to get out. No, I'm going to be honest, to get out. And I had a minor in Spanish, right? So, I get into the educational realm, and I'm going to talk about that a little later on. But this real estate thing, right? I was introduced to it from a guy that I knew in my old apartment. And, when I finished the coursework in September of 2020, I texted him because we fell out. He owed me some money. I did a job for him. He owed me some money. And because he, deaded the company that I did the job for, he thought that he was trying to kind of come back at me like, yo, I told you I ain't got it. Why you sweating me? But my whole thing was this. I did a job. And when you do a job, you expect to be paid. So because of that situation, we fell out. But he was the one. And when I finished the coursework in September, I texted him and I was like, listen, man, first of all, I'm sorry. I apologize for sweating you. It's just that I needed that money. I didn't have much. I needed that money. And you never got with me to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to pay it like this. I'm going to pay it like that. So let emotions get the best of me. But I appreciate you for introducing me to real estate. You were the one that kind of put the nugget in my ear. I looked at it. The first program I took wasn't the one for me. I went and found another program a couple years later when I closed on this house in 2020. When we closed on this house in 2020, I should say. And that's when I started off with the process. Throughout the process, it registered to me. This is why Black people don't get further education. It's a tough thing to do. When you think you have the blueprint to something, I'm a creative. When I come on this podcast, I talk to you from that standpoint. I'm a creative, right? So when you are trying to do something outside of that, like I'm trying to do something outside that's not tangible to the creation process, but it is because I'm an independent artist, so I got to bring all that money into this to make it progress, right? So when I'm trying to do that, my mind is occupied on how I got to be consistent with this podcasting thing, with the production thing. I got to be consistent with it. But also on the other end of it, I say to myself, listen, you're not generating enough money as an educator to be able to put all of this in there and maintain a marriage and maintain a lifestyle and maintain fashion and do all of these things. Something got to give. So the real estate thing to me struck me as, listen, this is real life school. And I don't want to sound like, yo, duh, but this is real life school. You got to study this stuff. You got to study it. You got to memorize it. You got to know this stuff because you're going to have to spit it back out on this final. And that kind of had me kind of in a mind like, man, I'm really locked in. Like I really got to, every second I'm waking up in the morning straight to real estate school, right? I'm going to sleep at night in real estate school. And it was one of those things like where my wife was like, yo, dang, another distraction to our marriage. I'm not going to front. This real estate program really kind of pulled. And, a part of the fact of not passing the state exam, and it took me so many times, was I had that pressure that was weighing on me like, yo, when you going to get this done and say you're going to do what you said you was going to do with this? You know what I mean? When you going to get it done? And man, I just, it was a journey. It started in Allied Real Estate School. Couldn't do that because the print was like Bible size small. And I learned something about myself that if I'm going to go on and do continuing education, it's got to be audio version. Somebody got to be talking. I cannot read. Not that I can't read, but reading is not my forte if I'm going to get this continuing education. So I found me a program that did just what I needed it to do. On the go, I could listen to it. Like I could listen to it while I ran. I could listen to it while I drove. I could listen to it while I worked. I can listen to it while I clean the house, while I press shirts. And, started it in 2020 of April 2020, after we closed. I didn't pass my first test, the real estate principles of real estate 1. I didn't pass my first test until June. And then I kicked into overdrive because there was a little story behind that first test. In Allied, I had taken the final twice and failed it, had to pay for it again, failed it again, and I just dropped it like, man, maybe it's not for me. Maybe I'll find another way, but there was no other way. You know, I bought my first pair of Nikes. I got my first pair of Jordans at 36. There's no way I was going back to school. You know what I mean? I got to figure it out. Sometimes you just got to figure it out. And the real estate thing, shout out to my homeboy, because he was my homeboy. Shout out to my homeboy, Edward Raldez. If you ever watch this podcast, man, know I appreciate you, man. You changed my life is what I text him. I said, you changed my life, man. And that's from some real life shit. Because I had, in between, the podcast wasn't generating money at the time, right? People ain't bought in yet. And by the way, listen, my podcast is on Apple Podcasts, iTunes. Subscribe to it. Leave me a comment. Rate the podcast. 107 episodes in, and I don't have that many ratings or comments. Do something. Holler at me. Work with me. Walk with me, please. But yeah, man, it just feels good to be out of real estate school, finally. It feels great to be out of real estate school because I felt like every time I was coming on a podcast by myself and saying what was next, it was this. And I didn't want to keep saying, pass it. And I finally passed it. But listen, what people should take is that, listen, it don't matter how long it take you. It don't matter how long it take you. Never quit. Never quit. I told my man today, I said to my man, what'd I say? Where he put it at? I said to my man, where my man at? I said to my man today, this is what I told my man. I said, dang. This is what I said to my man. I said to my man, people will wait a lifetime just to say, I knew you couldn't do it. And I said, I'll wait a lifetime just to say, I did it. Don't quit. Do not quit. Whatever it is you're pursuing. And you know what? It sounds cliche. Some people already know it, but there's some people that don't. Some people that are going to hit that adversity and just stop. Man, I took the test so many times. And even at the last part of the program, I could have been like, yo, you know what? It's not for me like I did before. But do not quit. Do not quit. As long as you get in your mind that you're going to pass it, one day it'll happen. And I'm living testimony to that.
Habakkuk 2:2-3 says, And the Lord answered me and said, Write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak, and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. You do what you do for yourself to prove you can do it for others. Even though the year of perfect vision needed corrective lenses, your vision was never out of focus. You remained still. You remained determined. Kobe said, the Mamba mentality is the attention to detail and the level of commitment. Run your race because you got time. Keep the momentum. Believe in your story, a creative story. Remember, never stay comfortable while trusting the process. Be innovative in your 720 hours. There will be stumbling blocks. You just keep pushing. Most importantly, what's next? Continue to drop.
Every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday?
Every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday.
Houston, Texas, I'm back after a wardrobe change. If you're listening to the podcast, I just put on a What's Next podcast t-shirt. I haven't worn one this year. So I wanted to go and put on that exclusive black What's Next podcast t-shirt that I give to every creative that comes on the podcast at the end of the show. Remember, you can shop stillvisionary.com/merch. My Cash App is John Ross Dike. My rap name, my real name. Shouts to Nas. But like I said, we were in the playoffs the first time in 4 years that Waltrip High School was in the playoffs. And round of applause to my boys. You know, I've said this once or twice on the podcast before. I done it all. The only thing that I haven't done before is deal dope and sell drugs. But everything else I've done. I haven't been an escort either, or not an escort, but a pimp, right? But I done it all. And my story into HISD starts off driving school buses. That's where I started. So when I got into the classroom, I like to say that I've been at Waltrip High School 7 years. I taught 6, and I've coached 5 years at Waltrip High School. Along that journey of education, or in education, I should say, I wouldn't call myself the best educator because there's some things that I'm not willing to change, right? Math is one of those subjects where people want to make it fun, but everything you do in life revolves math. And maybe I'm stuck in my ways on the way I learned it, but the way I learned math is through repetition, which is it also coincides with everything. You got to keep repeating what you do over and over and over again until you find mastery. And so, as an educator, I haven't been the best, right? I would almost say that the aspect of education or being an educator, I cater more to the side of mentoring, of watching kids grow, the maturation process. And during that stint, I've coached basketball for 5 years. My first class I coached was the class of 2020, right? And I was gifted, or blessed rather, I should say. I was blessed to coach the class of 2021. And when I coached the class of 2021 as freshmen, I said to the class of 2020, they're better than you. And I was speaking selfishly. Why? Because they allow themselves to be coached. And maybe it was me. I had already gotten my feet wet 1 year, but the second year I knew exactly what I wanted to do on that level to be successful. And I implemented it on the class of 2021, and we won more games. But the thing about the coaching was that not only did I coach them 1 year, but I coached them 2 and 3 years. So players like Sterling Riles and Douglas Turner III and Kobe Tillman, Xavier Caballero, I coached 3 years, right? And we grew together. When we had the last talk in the locker room, I was in tears talking to Trey and talking to Kobe, because I told Coach Morris this year, I said, you should cut them, because I don't know if they're going to be dedicated. I don't know if they've grown or if they've matured, if they want to be here, because we want to win. And I've watched seniors grow up at Waltrip High School, and then they get to that varsity level, and they're not as committed as they were before. They work their entire high school careers to play a varsity game, but when they get on varsity, the enthusiasm is gone. They already feel like they done made it. So that hunger to be at practice on time, to give it all in practice, is not there. So I told Coach, I said, cut them. Cut them. Even though Kobe had a crazy game against Madison his last JV year. We're talking about 2019, 2020. Crazy year. Trey had a crazy game against Milby 1 year. He had about 12, not 12, maybe about 20, 25 in that Milby game. Sterling had a crazy game. I told Coach to cut Sterling too. Jacob had a crazy game against Sterling High School at Waltrip. He was splatting that thing. We were jumping. Listen, the class of 2021 at Waltrip High School is the best class that I've ever coached. They made me a better coach. I enjoyed the basketball season because I knew what I was going to get from them, and they knew what they were going to get from me. We traveled to Alvin. We lost in the Alvin tournament. Actually, their sophomore year, we beat one team in the Alvin tournament. I think it was Angleton. We beat them by 2 points. So we made so much progress in that time period. But the icing on the cake was this year when we battled. We started off great this season. We were at one point we were like 4-2. 4-2. When we hit the turn, we were 5-2, and then we just dropped 4 games. We dropped 4 games and had to play a playing game. So the last game of the season was against Milby High School for a playing game. And we won. And yesterday we faced Hightower, and the score wasn't favorable for us. But it showed us that we could do it. It showed us that making it to the playoffs. For me, when I woke up that morning, I felt the reason why I bought them J's is because if we were gonna go out, I wanted to go out in fashion, in a style, in a way that wasn't expected of me. Everybody knows that I don't buy J's. Everybody knows that my shoe game is trash. I wanna change that. But everybody knows that my shoe game is not the best. But I bought a pair of Jordans for the class of 2021. And I wanted them to, enjoy it. Irregardless of what was going to happen at the conclusion of the game, I wanted them to enjoy the fact that, listen, you guys willed your way to the playoffs. This is an ode to the class of 2021, to my nephew, Caleb J. Richardson, to Jason Atakaya, to Douglas Turner III, Kobe Tillman, Kevion Johnson, Xavier Caballero, Sterling Riles, Jacob, even though you quit on us. I love y'all. Michael Rogers. Man, you guys stuck it out, man. And I'm proud of you. I'm uber proud of y'all because, it's not easy your senior year when you done got a job, and, some of y'all probably done got some tail. You know what I'm saying? And this is the time, your senior year, where you're going to college and you're trying to figure it out. And now, girls might like you a little bit, and you don't have time to play sports anymore. Not if it's not in your heart, but it was in your heart. And ladies and gentlemen, later today being the 27th, it's really the 21st, but this episode drops noontime today, the 27th, right? We're going to have a pizza party. All right. I promised that to them 2 years ago. And I'm going to cash in finally. Yeah, man. I'm just super proud of my boys for thugging it out, for sticking to it, for staying the course and making it to the playoffs and giving the program and the school hope for the future, right? The best class that I've ever coached thus far. Better than the class of 2020. Better than the class of 2019. Definitely. But yeah, to those graduating seniors from Waltrip High School, man, I love y'all. And I wouldn't be the coach I am today without y'all. So, wow, man. So I was on the way to take this exam today, right? Driving down 59 South. And I hear this and that was a Celia Cruz song. And el llama de la canción es Usted abuso, by Celia Cruz, the Cuban phenom, salsa queen. So I played that on the way to the test, and also play some Damaria. I like this record by Damaria. This record's on my mind right now, even though this is not the record I played. This is the record that is on my mind from Damaria's Femme Fatale album. And that record goes like this. Damaria, I need you on the podcast soon. Pardon me, I'm burping and stuff. Here it goes right here. I didn't have it queued. But this is the record right here. Off Damaria's Femme Fatale album. Here we go. This is Damaria, Femme Fatale, No More.
Like how that track started.
Yeah. Come on. I'ma save the one for. I'ma save the one. What I really want to play, Damaria. Yeah.
Since I last talked to you, thought we were over with, I thought that we were through. Now feelings coming right back, can't even front, I miss your loving, but I don't want you back. Cause you a fool, don't know why I fell for you. Don't know how to love me right, all we do is fucking fight. Waiting on the truth, tell me what you used to do on the low. You thought I ain't know, but it just goes to show that I don't care about what you do no more. Gotta let them feelings go. I suggest you do the same, boy. Won't be yours no more. Don't know what you.
Yeah, so the songs that are on my mind are Damaria, No More, and Celia Cruz, Usted, Abuso. Today, ladies and gentlemen, is February 21st, 2021, and we have 313 days left in the 2021 year. And we're almost out of the first quarter, man, but I would like to secure a broker and be on the way to my first transaction. You know, my wife's birthday is in, this episode's dropping on the 27th. Episode 106 dropped on the 23rd, which was this Tuesday that passed. So my wife's birthday is in a month, right? So I want to, I'm going to do something big for her. Big. And she should be on, she was on episode, 4590. So we should talk about that in episode 135 of the podcast. But in 313 days, man, I want to get a broker, the right one. And I want to start, making some real dough. Putting that back into my wife, into my life, into my house, and into SVI, and seeing how it multiplies. You know what I'm saying? Listen, man, I passed, and it feels good. It feels good to be done, man. It feels good to be done. But Houston, Texas, man. Most importantly, the last question I'll ask is, what's next? For me, man, it's getting busy, getting to the grind. I don't have to say anymore that what's next is passing the test. I passed today on the 9th time, and irregardless of how many times I took, man, my man Charlie said it doesn't matter. You don't introduce yourself as such and such realtor, and it took me this many times. It's John Ross Dike I, CEO of Still Visionary Inc., realtor. And that's that. Houston, Texas. You already know what time it is, man. Cash at me, man. I sell merch. I create merch. It's your guy, man. Friendly neighborhood realtor, educator, coach, podcaster, actor, lover of Christ. I do what I do for myself to prove that I can do it for others. Last episode of February. I'll see you in March. Peace and blessings. Now, why I had to go and do that, man? Jesus Christ. Trying to be fly. So what did I say? I said, it's your friendly neighborhood realtor, educator, coach, podcaster, actor, lover of Christ. Shout out to my wife. Shout out to my son, Baby D. Rest in peace, King. I do what I do for myself to prove that I can do it for others. Peace and blessings.
Feel like 95. Sachi on my body. Biggie, jiggle, puffy. All that ballin' is a hobby. I'm wild in my bodies. Valley, my Pilates. Nah, that's these Spumante. My crystal ball, I see crystal. I crystal y'all with that. I saw the sign like ace of spades. That ace of spades get cracked me like cheers to the money guys. The Willie niggas who buy them bottles. And then they spill these liquors. Yo, salute my dude. I see you, dog. 5 bottles, 1 I know I'm out of line, but love is shower time. You know it rose rain when your cloud is 9. Get off that high ass hussy. This a private party. Been on my dick too long. Your breath on private party. You gon' be nice and naughty. These walls on priceless Audi. This the upper crust. Fuck is up. Over and done. Overdose. Guess we did it again.